This program is brought to you by the Center for a Sustainable Today.
What a sweet pump, but it's a hand pump.
Yeah, Janelle, you're going to get a workout here. We're going to work you while you're here.
So this is bringing the water. Oh yes, I can feel it. I can feel the pressure.
It's siphoned, the water's siphoned from the barrel outside by a simple hose into the pump. And then I use it for, watering seedlings in here, this is our garden room.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to be pumping for you.
I'm going to get you over here every day to do this, Janelle. So it's just great for the seedlings love rainwater. And I have some little native plants here, some corn and some basil for pesto.
This is Peak Moment. We are living at a peak of human innovation, information, wealth, and health. But we're also at a peak of population and consumption, with rising temperatures and declining resources fueled by cheap oil and gas. Peak Moment Television, bringing you examples of positive responses to energy decline and climate change through local community action.
Hi, welcome to Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson. I'm in a pretty typical Santa Rosa suburb in California, but it's not a typical house, is it? This is the home of Richard Heinberg and his partner, Janet Baracco. And what you can see is not the house, but a beautiful garden inside. Let's meet them and see what they've done to transform their home, their backyard, in times of peak oil coming. Janet, Richard, thanks for joining us. So tell us about this house.
Well, we moved in here in 2000. It was our first house we've ever owned, and it was by far the worst house in the neighborhood. It was a complete disaster, inside and out. Where we're standing now was all just Bermuda grass, as was the entire backyard.
Typical suburban mess, right?
Right, but the reasons we chose it are the following. First of all, it's within walking distance of where we work, which is New College of California. Second, it has a large lot. It's on a quarter-acre lot, and we were looking for some place that had some potential for small-scale food production, which this does. And third, it's a relatively small house. It's 1,200 square feet, so it was something that we knew we could capably remodel and take care of.
Right, you didn't overdo it. And it's not far from stores and shopping, so you could bike or walk to that as well?
Yeah, we can walk downtown from here. It is a suburban neighborhood, but it's an inner early suburb, so it's we actually can get downtown here without a car.
There are stores right down here too, 5 minutes away.
There you are.
Right.
Well, it's not Bermuda grass now.
No.
Janet, give us a little tour of your front yard here.
Well, basically, the entrance was right here, so we did a different fence there with bamboo, but we wanted to just get rid of the lawn. Too water thirsty, so I went dumpster diving every week for cardboard, and we covered it all with cardboard. This was in the fall, and then we got a bunch of turkey mulch from the local grab and grow local place. You get your amendments. Dumped in the driveway over there.
Okay.
The neighbors wondered what the heck we were doing.
Several cubic yards of it.
Had a nice rich smell.
Mountains of compost.
And shoveled it.
Okay.
And buried the lawn about 6 inches deep in turkey mulch.
Yeah.
And you killed it.
Yeah.
Over the cardboard, and then right before the rains came, that was the idea. So then you make a little hole, different places like we did around here, and put water thrifty or drought tolerant plants in those holes, tucked them in nicely. Come fall, it was it's not enough water for them to grow, and yeah,
That was your start. And what do we have now?
Well,
7 years
we
later.
wanted edibles in the front yard, and people just love walking by and seeing our artichokes.
Oh, they're
We've even had
beautiful.
folks
Look
walk by and steal artichokes from us,
You,
but that's okay. We don't mind that.
gorgeous.
So we decided we were going to do some edibles. All of our trees here are edible. Almond. This is a nice semi-dwarf. This is a persimmon tree. We have olives on the other side, and right here is a nice pineapple guava.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah,
Flowers.
it has nice flowers this time
Now
of
that's
year.
a fruit.
Right,
Yeah.
but the flowers are edible as well.
Fruit come in around Christmas time.
Oh, nice.
And we also have 2 fig trees back here, and I have a medicinal herb garden that's slowly becoming a flower garden as well, but a habitat, more like a what would you say, wildlife habitat garden for the birds.
For the birds. Now, why
the
is that
bees.
important to have habitat for the birds and bees?
Well, it's absolutely important in the suburbs because we're taking up so much habitat with our sterile lawns. I mean, this is a very sterile environment when you see lawns
Right.
from a bird's eye view or a bee or a butterfly.
There's not a lot of...
No food, birds need places to nest and for cover, no nectar for the hummingbirds or the bees. So
So
definitely.
we're providing that.
You're the habitat of the block,
And they,
then some.
all the birds from all the neighborhood around, they come here and they tell their friends.
That's great. You've already got community happening, and the birds are them.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And the
So-
cats too, unfortunately.
That's right.
Cats love our place, I don't know why.
Let's take a look. I'd like to see what else is going on behind the house, too.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So you want to lead?
Your backyard is so beautiful, so lush, so colorful. Will you give us a tour?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, when we first moved here, this was all just lawn, basically, and wild onions. And Bermuda grass, right?
Yeah, it was a Bermuda grass lawn, not a very well kept one.
And the first thing we planted was this culinary herb garden because I love herbs and I wanted it right by the kitchen.
Okay.
So that made a lot of sense.
And so it's still in herbs.
Absolutely, yes.
All right. And then what? What do we have here?
And then we created the kitchen garden, which is basically this zone. In the philosophy of permaculture, you want to do different zones. So the one nearest the house is going to be the one that's the most, what would I say, cultivated the most, and you have to water.
You use it a lot.
Right.
Yes.
And so we did this. We did the semi-dwarf fruit trees here, and all of these beds, and the herb garden. It just made sense.
And
to
so
have it
what
right
do you
by the
have
kitchen.
in the beds? Let's see what kind of things you've got in your vegetables.
Well, we have a variety of different kinds of peppers. Here we have some
here,
peas. Have some peas.
Have a taste.
Hey.
And of course the tomatoes. It's late May now, so the tomatoes are just flowering, and we have a few small fruits starting to set on. Over here we have leeks and onions,
Potatoes.
right?
Squash is coming up.
Squash will be appearing.
Those are our summer
Soon.
squashes.
Borage for the bees.
To bring them in to pollinate everybody.
Oh yes, yes.
Aha.
And I planted on the ends here herbs and nasturtiums, which I actually trade. I use those for barter to the restaurant, the flowers.
Because
which
they're
is-
edible.
Yes, yes. And the thyme is here and the lavender. So I've done perennials on the edges of the beds to attract pollinators.
And we have some open spaces in the garden because things mature at different times. So some things come out, other things go in as the year
This is
progresses.
interesting here. I'd like people to see the lettuces in the middle. Our beans haven't come up yet, but the idea is to have beans here, bush beans, and then the lettuces in the little divot there in the little.
And the beans will provide
Area.
some of the shade for, partial shade for
Right.
those little sweet lettuces.
And as you can see, the snails have been munching away on our beans, unfortunately.
Thus
and,
the copper.
That's the copper.
The copper.
Try and keep those snails
They
out.
crawl over, and something with the slime. There's an electrical kind of
Connection and
shock.
They
basically.
short themselves out. Yeah,
Ooh, love it.
They don't like it at all.
they don't like it. So, Janaea, we have about 25 fruit and nut trees on our quarter acre, including almond and walnut and apple and pear and persimmon and on and on and on. This particular tree right here is a Seckel pear, which is a French dessert pear. Doesn't preserve very well, so not many people know this particular variety, but it produces really well and beautiful
It looks gorgeous.
sweet fruit.
Color
Yeah.
and so on. And so you eat these fresh,
Absolutely.
right? Or do they dry?
No.
So
Not
this
very
is
well.
just for the moment.
For the moment.
Oui, oui.
And what else do we have here?
Well, right here, where the currants are, our neighbor gave us these, by the way. He had an overflow of these. We'll see some lettuces growing in the barrel.
It's nice
And-
because they're in the shade.
Yes, they do very well, Janaea. And the thing is, as much as I love gardening in the ground, I'm getting more into container gardens because for certain varieties of things because, for instance, I have very little problem with snails. And you know, people say to me, "Oh, but you have a big yard. I don't have any place to garden." And I tell them, you know, get a couple of wine barrels, half wine barrels, and you
you've
can
got a
plant
garden.
potatoes. You can do all kinds of things. I did sweet potatoes last year, lettuces, carrots, you name it. Garlic. There's garlic over here as well.
So you could do a whole, a whole city garden actually, just in containers.
Absolutely.
Or off a patio.
And you can control the water. Pests are easier to spot. They're convenient. They're right by your back door. Good for folks that can't walk very far.
Great idea. Great.
So this is a little room in our total garden that is mostly just for beauty and enjoyment. There was only one feature here, which was a loquat tree, which is still here, but everything else we planted. We had had a wonderful trip to Kyoto, Japan back in the late 90s, and we were so impressed by the Zen gardens and architecture of Japan that we wanted to have some little echo of that here. So this is a little Zen garden.
It feels that way. I just love the contrast with the long, narrow green and then the yellow round leaves. It just feels very tranquil, actually.
Yes, the horsetail is a great plant. It's very invasive, so you have to watch it. But I just pull it up and put it in the back area of our yard where it's very wet, and it does extremely well. We did make a bit of a mistake with the bamboo. You have to watch bamboo. We have some clumping and some running varieties. And the clumping is the lower one that you see right there. So we had to dig, I don't know if you can see the black
Edging,
plastic,
yes.
the edging. We had to dig about 3 feet down, and hopefully that's going to contain it.
Somewhat.
So, you know, hey, you learn with gardens, you
learn.
make mistakes.
And that's part of nat life, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's on this tree? That doesn't look like fruit to me. Let's go look. Something different.
Well, this little guy is this is a dryer, a very low-tech food dryer. And right now I have herbs in here, mostly lemon verbena and lavender and calendula. As you
No
can
electricity
see,
required.
I love it. It's just in the sun with a little mesh net and some little open shelving
they
in
come
here.
off. You can wash them.
What can you do? Fruit or
We've done tomatoes, fruit, you know, plums, all kinds of goodies. So it works really well in our climate, particularly because it's so dry and hot in the summer.
Now that's really nice to have a solution that doesn't require electricity, and in our climate, your climate here. Wonderful.
So as we move toward the back of the property, we pass the compost pile, and we try to produce as much organic matter for our soil as we can here with garden clippings and kitchen scraps, but it takes a lot for a piece of property this size.
Right, and our worm bin actually helps us with that. We have a worm bin on the front porch, and so we feed you know, our kitchen scraps to the worms, and they produce this wonderfully rich
Even
humus.
richer than regular compost.
Absolutely, and I use it on house plants and also in you know, when I'm planting tomatoes or something like that.
So you can just have a small space for worms to be growing?
Absolutely.
It's a this big around. I
So
mean,
that can be done in the city as well.
oh yes, yes.
Vermiculture.
Vermiculture, the worms out here. What's this? This is a new bed, looks like.
Yeah, actually this bed was just put in last night,
Oh my.
and that's why all the plants look so wimpy. This is actually an energy garden. We're growing energy crops here, sorghum here on the left, and that can be made into ethanol. And then here on the right, a sunflower crop, which can be made into biodiesel. Now this is partly an experiment. This is part of the Energy Garden program for Post Carbon Institute, and lots of folks are doing this, and it gives us experience in producing energy crops, and also we get to see just how much sorghum or sunflowers it will actually take to make our car go 20 feet.
I was just saying, that's a very small, 4x4 space.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting, well, you'll find out what kind of yields you
I mean,
get.
obviously, it would take acres to
move our cars.
move our cars for any substantial period of time. But we got to start
It's
somewhere.
an important part of the experiment to see about producing our energy biologically just as well as our food for us.
Right.
Great.
So, Janaea, I wanted to let you know about this area because it's very interesting. This is the back of our property, and it tends to flood a little bit here in the winter, and the soil isn't really great. So Richard and I had this great idea to put native plants back here, along with some bamboo.
Okay.
And we're actually standing, we're going to make a pond here. So we're standing in the middle of the pond right here.
So you're using the natural conditions and just strengthening them, actually.
Yes, yes. And we're going to draw frogs. You know, we're going to have frogs coming here, hopefully. We're crossing our fingers.
Yes, yes. To
We're
eat all
sending
the
out
bad
the
guys.
invitations now.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Sending out invitations, yes. And the birds are going to come eat all the berries of the native plants. And so then Richard got the great idea to do, I wanted to do a Three Sisters garden. He said, well, why don't we do a spiral? So I'm going to show you the spiral.
Okay.
And we're going to walk it, okay? And
This is really lovely. They're mounds. You've got a spiral
little
mound.
mounds. Yes, we have Hopi corn here, which is the wonderful different multicolored corn you've probably
Yes,
seen.
yes. Beautiful colors.
And it's great for grinding into flour to make cornbread. And so we have the corn, and then let's see if we can find a bean.
The beans are
sprouting
getting
up.
eaten by the snails, unfortunately.
There's some beans.
Yeah.
All right.
So the beans are going to come up and twine around the corn.
All right. Oh.
And then the squash, which is the third sister, is going to spread out and mulch everything. And the mulch will keep the water in, basically, keep the moisture in the ground. So
That's a wonderful way to combine all three of them, but in a spiral. That's magical.
yes, and very practical Native American, time-honored way of farming.
Well, I hope the beans win out, along with everybody else.
I think they will.
I'm noticing that all of your downspouts have barrels underneath them.
That's right. This is a salvaged barrel, and we catch the water. It's diverted into the barrel, and you know we only have half a dozen of them, so it's not an enormous amount of water. But it's nice rainwater, and what we do for this particular barrel is pump that into our greenhouse so that we can use it on the seedlings.
Oh, okay. And the other's intended for irrigation out in,
Sure,
you know, because
yeah.
you're just collecting
Yeah,
rainwater.
we use it for whatever.
I'll bet you get just a fraction of what you could
Oh,
get
yeah,
with rain.
absolutely. If we had a 20,000 gallon container, we could easily fill it up every year, but this is what we have.
Well, this is a good place to start. We may all have 20,000 gallon containers in order to water our gardens. I want to see the pump.
Okay, let's go take a look.
What a sweet pump, but it's a hand pump.
Yeah, Janai, you're going to get a workout here. We're going to work you while you're here.
So this is bringing the water. Oh yes, I can feel it. I can feel the pressure.
It's siphoned, the water's siphoned from the barrel outside by a simple hose into the pump. And then I use it for, watering seedlings in here, this is our garden room.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to be pumping for you.
I'm going to get you over here every day to do this, Janea. So it's just great for the seedlings love rainwater. And I have some little native plants here, some corn and some basil for pesto.
This is a very interesting room, the whole room. You know, you've got glass panels on all sides. It's facing your hot side.
Well, the original idea with this garden room was to build a kind of solar greenhouse on the south side of our house. And it partly worked and partly didn't work because we wanted it to accomplish two different functions. We wanted it to be a garden room where we could grow seedlings and so on, and we also wanted it to be a solar greenhouse that would actually produce heat for the house. So we have vents that go into the house.
So on a hot day,
So on a hot day, we open the lower and upper vents, and the cold air from the house comes in at the bottom, and then the hot air from the greenhouse goes into the house and helps heat the house. Well, the problem is we didn't want the greenhouse to heat up too much because it would kill all the little plants.
right.
So then that kind of moderates the benefit that we get from the heat. But it does fulfill both functions to a certain extent, and it's really a joy to have this little space.
It's absolutely the
gravel
center of
floor.
our agriculture, our horticultural endeavors here. I mean, I do all my planning here, and We have a salvage sink, and we have our sophisticated gray water system, which is just basically running
bucket
into
going
a bucket.
straight down,
And
yes.
so we're really conscious of water because I have to empty that thing, you know, very, very often. And it's a wonderful space to have.
Well, I have seen one solar oven because we have one, but two of them. We came in and it smelled so good. So let's show folks what you've got here.
Yeah, let's see how it's doing. Okay, it's been a while. The sun's gone down now, but it's remained warm, fairly warm in here. And we have a little polenta with some veggies.
What's nice is it was hot and cooking when we first arrived hours ago, and it's still staying warm without having to do anything in your oven.
Right.
What's that?
And this is some nut bread, so with some walnuts from our tree. And so it's a quick bread. Works pretty well in the oven. You can cook a lot of things in here, from grains to meats to veggies.
Yeah, during the summer,
very well.
we usually eat at least one meal a day out of our solar oven.
So you start early because that's when you got sun, and let it go warm through the afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, you're in the sun spot yourself here.
Yeah, we have a solar clothes dryer here. This is a really new invention. I think it's going to catch on like wildfire. You don't actually have to put them into any kind of metal container. You just put them out on a piece of rope or a piece of wood like this, and the sun just dries them.
What a magical technology.
I know.
And I noticed the technology up on your roof as well, big blue ones.
Yeah, we do have photovoltaic panels. We have a 1 kilowatt system, which is a small system, but we use so little electricity on our house that actually provides all that we need.
And is it tied to the grid?
It is tied to the grid, but we also have battery backup. So when the grid goes down, we stay up.
Haha, that's smart, because many people are doing the tie, but not necessarily the batteries.
It's an extra expense, but after I found out how vulnerable California's electricity grid actually is, and the fact that we're probably going to start seeing blackouts later this summer, I thought it was worth investing a little extra in the battery
So about
backup.
how much extra time will you have when the lights go out for the rest
Oh,
of the city?
we can go for days.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Good
Hopefully
for you.
till the
We may not get to see it, but I also want to note that when I walked through your house, I saw the dual pane vinyl windows. You mentioned that you got insulation, some
Right.
kind of insulation.
Right.
What?
And we also insulated the ceiling to a considerable depth with blown-in cellulose insulation.
Oh, and we had blue jean insulation as well.
And you've got some Energy Star appliances. I saw you
Right.
have a, a small washer, the front-loading washer.
Yeah.
So that's part of why you're using less electricity.
And solar tubes in our roof that let
Which gives you light, from the
natural
roof.
light. Make use of that.
And of course, the compact fluorescents and all of those things that we try to do to minimize our electricity use so that we can get by on as small a photovoltaic system as possible. We're also planning to do solar hot water, but we just haven't quite gotten to that yet. We have the panels, but we need to install
do
them.
the work.
Yeah.
Well, you have done one or two other things, it seems to me, around here. So the fact you haven't gotten to that is pretty reasonable,
pretty
given
busy.
everything else, including your busy talking schedule. Richard and Janet, there's this sweet building out in the middle of your backyard. Tell me about it.
Well, this is a little cabin. We call it our summer palace. It's a tiny little cabin. It's 120 square feet. We built it last year out of natural materials and some recycled materials. And you want to go inside and take a look?
Sure, yeah. Oh, what a sweet place. Oh, this is so nice.
Yes, this is our little garden summer cottage, and we tried to use as many green materials as we could constructing this. So for instance, we have the cork floor, which is wonderful. It just smells really good and it feels really good underfoot. Clay plaster walls with the natural pigment in them that actually Richard and I mixed up. We sort of made our own custom pigment and applied with the trowel. There were several people that came and helped out, so it was really fun. It was a community,
That's nice.
community
That's
event.
Nice. And I like the glass blocks in here to bring just the light in from the west, just naturally.
Yeah, one of my students actually came up with the design for that, and then actually for quite a lot of the features in the little cottage.
It's actually the Fibonacci series.
Yes.
That's where he came up with
Okay.
the 1, 1, 2, 3. So.
And you insulated it I'm sure.
Blue jean insulation.
Nice. Well, I expect that you're going to have some lovely moments in this little sanctuary is
we
really what
already
it
have.
feels like to me.
Yes, it is.
Thank you for this sanctuary that you're creating for the birds, the frogs, the bugs, yourselves, the rest of us, your food. This has been a wonderful tour and a real
Well, it's been a pleasure
inspiration.
to have you here to share it.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're watching Peak Moment, community responses for a changing energy future. I'm Janaea Donaldson. Join us next time.